at the backdrop of the Parliament of Uganda passing the anti-homosexuality bill, which was later on assented to by the President of the Republic of Uganda. This led to controversy from certain sections of the international community, and this, I think, has been climaxed by the World Bank Group decision to halt its funding to the Republic of Uganda for further projects. This comes, at the backdrop of the law that was passed that, in their view, is discriminatory in nature. But, well, our president responded in a very firm way, and you all must have seen that writing that, indicated that Uganda will, survive with or without the World Bank funding. Well, we are here to evaluate what does this mean for the possible future of our economy. But also we know that the World Bank has been funding several sectors, the education sector, projects within cities and municipalities. So what does this leave for us? Does our future hang in the balance? Is the question this afternoon on the Youth Roundtable. And to answer it, I'm joined by a panel of distinguished and immaculate young people. But it's now my pleasure to introduce to you, and in no particular order, from the Alliance for National Transformation Youth League is an economist by the names of Kato Laban. Laban is a regular on this show. Laban, we're happy to have you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here.
How do you feel? You were here last week. You're becoming very regular on the show. No?
Me becoming regular, it seems, it shows that the content
You're speaking English,
and my liberations that I give here play a great role in shaping.
All right, we are very happy to have you, Laban. Next to Laban is Judith Muvara. Judith is a programs assistant for investment and sustainable development at SEATINI, Uganda. Judith, is that correct?
A little bit.
Okay.
I was.
You were.
I was heading the investment for sustainable development, but now I am into the financing for development program at still SEATINI, Uganda. Good afternoon, viewers. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, financing, interesting. So, I guess this is a perfect topic for you. Next to Judith and the gentleman in the middle is a graduate of LLB. Those who know LLB, that is Legu, what?
Bachelor's of Law.
Okay, Bachelor's of Law. I thought you would have mentioned the is it? The Latin, phrase. But, well, Sam Loki is the name. He's a graduate of law at Gold University, and he joins us on the show for the first time. Sam, we are very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Well, it's always good to share ideas, and especially that the youth voices need to be heard. We shall represent those that cannot be here today.
All right, thank you. And you know that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which is the tech era, and I'm joined by a web designer, also a journalist, and the name is Nassali. Aminah. Aminah, we're happy to have you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah. How do you feel being here?
I feel good, and it's always a pleasure sharing ideas, of course.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Judith, because your title has something to do with finance, I will just begin with you. I will just begin with you, Judith. Okay. Is that, first of all, from your own perspective, what do you make of the World Bank Group's decision to halt further funding to Uganda at the backdrop of our anti-homosexuality law?
Yeah, thank you very much, Moses. I think to being in that program that I am in right now, we have interacted with lots of tax-related issues and budgeting and all. And just to note that the recent past budget, I think we're in the second month of this financial year.
True.
And this past this financial year, the budget, I think there was an 8-point-something billion for borrowing, external borrowing. And of that, I have assessed that World Bank takes at least 4% of that, meaning it gives us a lot of money to finance our budget, which only means that the projects, and we very well know that in the recent past budget, the human capital development was taking a lot of money. I think you mentioned that the health education which the World Bank is focusing on, is funding. On my end, I think it raises a bit questions, because I'm worried how are these going to be funded, and maybe not for this year, because maybe the projects are already running, some are being implemented, but I'm worried about the next financial year. How much are we targeting? How much are we going to have, basing on the fact that we do not have a clear tax base. We do not have a strong tax base. I think we have a lot of loans going on. We have we do, how can I say, survive from lots of debts, lots of loans. So my worry is that World Bank suspending the funding, it's going to impact on those developments. I think someone mentioned that it's going to, they said that our public servants are going to be cut, which is a little bit a worry to me, because I know that the teachers, the nurses out there are not getting a lot of money right now. The economy is so hard. The economy is already bad for our people, our public servants. They're not getting a lot of money. So their money is being cut only means that it's going to have a lot of unemployment. We're already crying, youth and being unemployed. Many people are going to be cut in those ministries. I think many ministries are already weighing, who do we take on, who do we suspend, who do we lay off? So meaning we're going to have a lot of unemployment in there, but also means that we're going to have a lot of corruption. If these people have been relying on these projects to get the money, if they do not get the money, that means they're going to create other means. And to me, it is a lot of worry for the World Bank to go. And the fact that it also has an issue on the international cooperation with Uganda, where the very many people, developing partners, who based on World Bank to fund some projects in Uganda. The very many countries that based on the fact that World Bank is funding Uganda, maybe it's a good country, but now that it's holding off, now that it's suspending, very many developing partners are going to also revise their funding with Uganda, which is a worry, because there are very many people that are already benefiting, already employed by these development funds. We have already a history of DGF going. There are very many people that were employed there that currently are not employed. We have the other day, the UN Commission was suspended. There are very many people that were getting a lot of money. Now it's no more. And this now World Bank only means that our economy is going to be worse. It's already bad. We're already having a lot of surviving on debts. We're already surviving on 50% of the debts, I think. Now it's going to be worse, I guess, which is not a good indication to me.
Well, Loki, Dambisa Moyo is a Zambian economist, trained by Oxford and prestigious global universities. She writes in her book, Dead Aid, that aid grants are actually Africa's biggest issue. That if Africa can deal away with, actually, she asked the question that, what if those who are giving African countries debt woke up and said that we are cutting our debt today? What would Africa do? All right. So Judith comes from the school of thought that, wow, we are finished. You know, like it was bad. It is going to get worse. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, in her words. But I don't know, isn't there a silver lining in all this, that we are not going to be forced to rethink about our economic independence? That for how long shall we continue to count on World Bank, IMF, and all those guys? Isn't this about time that we're now beginning to think on a more sustainable internal plan?
Yes, certainly. You see, even in the president's reply to the World Bank's decision, he specifically pointed out that Uganda will definitely grow and continue to develop without World Bank or with it. Now that means I would not like to believe that the president was uttering lies, quite frankly. You see, funding from the World Bank, in my own view, is part of the corruption problem in Uganda. when we as Ugandans think about projects, say NUSAF, for example, those funds are swindled by some people. What do? We go back to the World Bank, give us more money. NUSAF 2 comes in, those funds are swindled. NUSAF 3 might come in, NUSAF 4. But to what extent? You see, if the World Bank holds their funding, then we as Uganda might have to be a little bit more deliberate with the way we spend our finances. If you looked at our budgetary expenses that we have, you would find that we have a lot of uncalled for expenses. And why is that? Simply because we have a lot of money in our disposal, or we believe that we can have a lot of money from anywhere else, external borrowing. If we knew for a fact that we did not have money, we are a poor child, then we would not spend extravagantly. Do you know in the budgetary expenses that there is a lot of what you would term as classified expenses? Classified expenses at the president's residence, classified expenses at Ministry of Defense, yes. And these are amounts of money that are not ever accounted for. Now, you see, for classified expenses, there is a committee of only 2 individuals that look into those budgets. That would be the speaker and then the chairperson budgetary committee. 2 individuals. I am not trying to question their ethics, but I think 2 individuals are also just human beings. They are susceptible to they can make mistakes, surely. But if it is a fully fledged committee, then the chances of making mistakes are limited by at least half or 3/4. The corruption problem of Uganda is the biggest reason as to why today we feel like we cannot survive without the World Bank helping us. In 2025, we might be able to start getting our own oil. But where that money will go is what we still don't know. You see, the oil agreements between the country and those corporations might yet be deadly and very hard for the Ugandan to comprehend. But even then, I think the best way we can go about this is not by looking for another person that will lend us money. You see, I seem to remember very well how I lived out my life in high school. The moment you come to the moment you join at the beginning of the term, you're going to spend extravagantly. And for what? Simply because you think you cannot at that point eat school food. Then in midway the term, when you are a little broke, you will get back into your senses. You think about how best you're going to manage the little finances you have. If the food is bad, you're going to buy an appetizer of just 500 or 1,000 as opposed to the 5,000 that you would have spent. So you see, the cutting of this funding is something I can relate to that. Limited finances will make us slightly more deliberate with the way we spend our money. It might be a blessing in disguise.
All right. And Aminah, let me come to you. Uganda is not the only country that has laws against homosexuality. Ethiopia and many other countries bar LGBTQ. Why Ugandan specific? I don't know. Is it peculiar to you that the funding of World Bank is being halted towards Uganda and the other countries are not being talked about?
It is really
Why
peculiar.
Uganda?
It is really peculiar because why Uganda anyway? We saw Saudi Arabia having the same laws that are even more strict than the ones we have here in Uganda, but why Uganda? Except if the World Bank says they have another hidden agenda that we do not know about as Ugandans, chances are, because we've seen so many human rights violations since Uganda got her independence, and Uganda became a signatory to the World Bank, or a member of the World Bank, I think in 1963, a year after our independence. We've had so many human rights violations. Just recently, our recently concluded elections witnessed utmost violence. But the World Bank did not come out to say that, okay, we are withdrawing our money because you people, you've done so much, and so and so and so. The question still goes out to anyone out there, why Uganda? Even to me, it actually beat my own understanding when I was like, okay, so why is World Bank holding funds? And this is the only reason they are giving. To me, I think it is a lame reason, except if they say some human rights are more human rights than the other, or if they say some humans are more equal than the other, which is against the concepts of having a one international space. Because, you know, being a signatory to the UN, because being admitted to the World Bank means you're already a signatory to the UN and you're already a member of the IMF. So do some members get more privileges than the other members? That is the question we should be asking, maybe. So Uganda is termed as a low developing country. Does it get less privileges to other low developing countries? Those are the questions we should be asking. That is, to me, it was really absurd that the World Bank chose to take it in such a direction.
I don't know. Is it because Uganda has over time portrayed itself as a center of gravity, at least in sub-Saharan Africa, that if you look at the stature of our president, a good number of African countries seem to either draw inspiration or even draw okay, he appears to be a magnet and a point around which many African countries are organizing. You look at President William Ruto was here this week. Last week we had President Uhuru. We had President Samia Suluhu about 2 weeks ago. We had the Ethiopian president here as well last week. We had the president of Cameroon. Is it Cameroon? So is Uganda positioned in a way that it appears to be a center of power in sub-Saharan Africa? And perhaps that is why if you dislodge it, then you can dislodge the other countries.
Well, I wouldn't love to take it in such a perspective. Even when we are a model country, these other entities are not supposed to impose whatever they think is supposed to be imposed. The reason as to why we've had diplomacy and the reason as to why diplomacy has developed over time, it's because people are able to sit down and discuss and talk. If, I mean, years ago, entering America with a veil would mean you're a terrorist. Now it is not the case. So if they feel like the homosexuality things are okay, let them not impose. Let them just show us how okay they are. Maybe with time, we can really subscribe to their kind of ideology. But for now, imposing and saying we are halting our funds because of the anti-homosexuality bill, really, that was not what I expected of an entity like the World Bank.
Okay, let me speak to an economist and also a young leader. Laban, 2 questions from me, and I want to borrow from what Aminah is saying, is that are there political connotations attached to the World Bank decision? Because this law is not new. The president did assent to this law more than 3-4 months ago, all right? But it is only 2 weeks ago where our president was in Moscow, or no, sorry, in St. Petersburg, with President Putin and the rest. I don't know. Is our gravitation towards the East? Okay, do you think this could have been do you think this could have been inspired by our gravitation towards the East? That is 1. 2, is that, like Aminah mentioned, other human rights have been violated in the past. Why the LGBTQ right specifically propels World Bank to take such a decision?
Thank you, Comrade Kidega. I always want also to remind you that I'm not only having knowledge in economics, but I am also an accountant.
Oh,
yes,
interesting.
I'm an accountant. And when I am starting, I want to give the background, the economic background. Before I come to your questions, you remember the Uganda's economy in early 70s had gone down. That is during the Aminah regime when he chased away the Indians. It had gone down. Then we saw in early 1990s where the IMF fund, World Bank proposed some structural adjustments that required the economy, the big portion of the economy to be private. That called for liberalization of the economy, such as privatization. That's when we saw education, health sector, everywhere going to privatization. While I was reading some book, an economic book, I read that by the year 2001, Uganda's budget, 60% of the Uganda's budget, because you have to look at when the NRA government took over power in 1986, the World Bank started extending support, mainly which was budget support for Uganda to finance its capital and recurrent expenditures. Then by the year 2001, 60% of the Uganda's budget was financed by the World Bank. By the year 2001.
60%?
I think 60%.
6 or 60?
60%.
60%?
But yes. Because by then, revenue collection was still low. Today, 20% of our recurrent expenditure is financed by the World Bank. Most of the capital expenditure is financed by the World Bank. Comrades, when we come here to discuss the impact played by the World Bank in shaping the Uganda's economy, is great. We should not only come here to discuss the financial matter only. But you see, the World Bank did not only suspend, did not review funding. In the statement you saw, it was saying that on their website, the World Bank took a decision to review its portfolio to Uganda. World Bank does not only extend. You see, people are only looking at the financial assistance or the financial help from the World Bank. But we have to also look at what else does the bank extend to Uganda and any other low developing countries. First of all, there is also a technical expert is what? It is in terms of policy, both macro and microeconomic policies. They are supported by World Bank. A lot, not only what? So when the comrade here comes and says that the portfolio from the World Bank is only corruption, it has increased the corruption in Uganda, I want to disagree with it. Because the World Bank does not only extend. A discussion like this, comrades, young people, helps.
Speaking like an old person.
Of course, young people, we are young people. This is a youth round the table.
So lighter notes, don't
yes. A discussion like this is very important. Mostly to we, the young people, who can access these persons. It is more important to us because we are the majority in this country. The review of the World Bank's portfolio to Uganda will affect us, mostly the young people. When you look at the employment level, World Bank, through its project called Investment for Transformation and Employment, it's called INVITE.
Yes.
According to our resource envelope for this financial year 2023-2024, the World Bank, through that project, was expected to provide 200 USA million. 200 for that project. And it, according to the Minister of Finance Planning and Economic Development, he stated that that fund will go to small-scale businesses. Who are the people in those small-scale businesses? Are the young people. It is projected that that fund will create more 200,000 jobs. But also, it will help to maintain both indirect and direct employment or jobs of about 530,000 jobs, both indirect and direct. So a discussion like this is important for us, not only to go political, but look at the economic status of our country. Is the 6% of the economic growth which is projected for this at the end of this financial year, will it be achieved or not? This is a discussion that we have to come here and discuss what is the impact of the World Bank's decision in regards to education. The government of Uganda provided, according to the budget, 100 billion for the construction of City School. Of course, I had an argument that because according to that, what they said is that even when they provided, the government had not secured land titles where they are going to construct the schools. But we have to look at where was the funding coming from. We have to look at the impact of infrastructure in this country. Remember, the government of Uganda, in this kind of financial year, provided money for the construction of standard gauge rail, but also rehabilitation of the meterage rail. That is, I think, from construction from Kampala, because we know that the part from Kampala to Kasese has not been touched on. So we have to assess what will be the impact of infrastructure. Roads. Most of the roads you are seeing in Uganda doesn't have that money to fund roads. They cannot. We have to look at the interest rate given to loans from the World Bank. It is little. Even I think it is not more than even 1%. And the growth period,
0.5.
0.5. But the growth period, even it can range to 40 years. I was talking to one of the cadres of NRA from Toro sub-region. He was making uninformed argument that this World Bank has been exploiting us that they are giving us a very huge percentage interest rate. Let me tell you, you can only get in the World Bank, I swear you can get a low interest rate. You go to China and you see the grace period they will give you for paying that rate. That one. So we have to come here and look at the health sector. How we did, because we are the young people of this nation. How is the health sector going to be affected?
Just before we go into detail, there's something you mentioned that I want to interrogate with Judith.
I had not answered your questions, but it's okay.
Because this is a bit important, and I want to ask Judith to help us expand it. Judith, when you hear Laban, he mentions all the figures that we need to build the seed schools, the roads, and all these things. And largely, this money has been coming from outside. But the question of domestic resource mobilization, which I think SEATINI has been very prominent on, is that how can we have a robust domestic resource mobilization strategy? Is it about tax administration? Is it about how do you widen our tax base? I don't know. How can we stop to look at the World Bank as the only funders of our seed schools, infrastructure, and begin to look from within Uganda? Because, I mean, I don't think we are a poor country, are we? So I don't know. Domestic resource mobilization.
Thank you. That's a very good question, Moses. To tackle it, I'll just agree with you that domestic resource mobilization is something that we do not give priority as Ugandans, even to start with, as individuals, at what rate do you think, as Moses, you are going to contribute your tax? You're going to, what rate are you contributing to the tax basket?
Yeah.
And maybe not just to individuals. The fact that it's going to already be now widened because we have not lots of options since the World Bank is cutting. I think URA is already given a burden. I think this financial year was already, its target was already raised.
It's what, 29?
Yeah,
26 point.
Yeah,
26?
I think the
26
resource
less.
remobilization for the revenue, the projected revenue is around 26.5.
Okay.
Yes, but the point is the URA's target was already raised, but now given this, it's going to be, I think, worse. And I think I need to answer your question directly. We need to look for other, as a country, as a URA, maybe as an administrator, we need to identify other means of generating revenue. And maybe to mention one or give open options of what we need to have seen. The other day we had a study on the implications of the illicit financial flows in Uganda. And it mentioned that we lose, as a country, we use around 300 billion moving out of Uganda. We did not tax that money. Imagine if we're benefiting from that tax, from those illicit financial flows, tax mispricing, cross-border traders mispricing. You ship in a car or a machine and you say it is, I bought it at 10 million, yet it was 100 million. So meaning the tax that is going to be taxed on that machine is less. So as a URA, they need to look into those illicit flows that are going out of the country, to tax those, to benefit, to raise a lot of revenue as Ugandans. And maybe the other option would be taxing, or maybe, I think, which is going to raise questions, commercial farmers. We have farmers in Uganda that are going to grow just, I think, acres and acres of maize. They bring to Kampala on a truck. They sell their maize in this market, and they get their money, 100 million, and go back home and sit. Are these people taxed? Where? Thank you. No, they are not. Because
I want
we
to
have
interject a bit.
First, okay, yeah.
okay.
Sure.
Let me interject.
On the issue of taxation?
Yeah, on issue of taxation. You see, I want to disagree with her that we shouldn't only look at the issue of taxation as the only avenue.
I didn't say we should look at it as the only avenue.
There is
It
a way I want
one
to bring
of
it.
them.
Okay, it is one of them. There's what we call tax for agricultural products. The law is there, the act is there. But maybe you would say the URA should increase. It's not only, by the way, it should not be the role of only URA, the government of Uganda, Parliament of the Republic of Uganda,
And the citizens of Uganda.
and the citizens
Should do it.
should make sure that the roads are high-head too. To make sure that the revenue, URA can collect enough revenue. We should also look at the option of using ICT systems to make sure that we increase our revenue. Because one of the reasons, and also sensitization of the population, I am very sure that majority of more than 50% of the businesses
We are
in
in hard
Uganda.
time.
Yes,
remember.
yes. Most 50% of most businesses in Uganda don't know even how to use e-freeze, and even tax dollars are not. So the use of ICT systems will be the only way to go in increasing.
Okay.
resource
So
mobilization.
that goes back to tax administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you administer the
I
taxes?
think just to wind up that discussion, the URA has a lot of work now to do on it, because all the burden is on URA. Whether this World Bank being suspending, it's now its burden to mobilize more tax, to sensitize more taxpayers, to have more taxpayers on board. There are very many taxpayers that are not on board. We have talked about the entertainment industry. We have talked about the informal sector. We've talked about the commercial farmers. That is not, because we have done research on it, it is not debatable. There are very many people that are not tapped into to have TIN numbers and pay their taxes. So I think that should be now a curtain raiser, a wake-up call to Uganda, to URA, to the parliament. It's a wake-up call, by the way, but World Bank suspending this. So we need to agree as a country to have very many strategies, very many linkages where we can get the tax, but also to mention that much as you collect all these taxes, please put them into use.
To good use.
To good use, to benefit us. You cannot get those taxes and you're having, you're creating new cities to have, you know, those, you're creating more expenditures. So my call is to, widen the tax base as far as we can to have our money, because we cannot benefit from loans all the time. We have seen debt burden going up. So it was already a question this financial year. So we are already looking at prudent debt management. And one of those issues was to raise, to widen the tax base. But doing that, having more taxpayers on board only means that as Moses pays his tax, he's going to come and account. He needs accountability. He needs to see these public hospitals working. He needs to see this infrastructure working for him to be encouraged to pay more tax.
Wow, good, very good, fantastic analysis. Loki, if you listen to Laban and Judith, they portray the World Bank as a messiah. That the World Bank has been, oh my God, doing it all. But let me just give you one simple scenario. Laban mentioned the structural adjustment programs that encouraged us to privatize, open up our economy. Guess what? We opened up our economy to multinationals like KFC, Apple. They are dominating the African market today. So when we begin to look at World Bank as a messiah, these multinationals that are working, that are working in Africa, and hemorrhaging all this money back to their countries, is there a give and take? I don't know. Are they giving with one hand and taking from the other? Because, I mean, privatize, open up. Yes, we have opened up our economies. Poop, and they're here. Those American companies, they're here. The money is going back to their countries. So, if you look at it critically, they're actually not doing us a favor. Because the money they invest here goes back to them somehow. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, in regards to profit repatriation, it goes back to I think I would want to draw reference from the act of Amin when he sent away the Indians. Surely the Indians even then would involve in profit repatriation. But even when they would do so, we are able to tax them, and we were also able to benefit slightly, which is why when they were sent away, the economy fell. Now, the kind of expertise that these multinational corporations bring to the country, first of all, through their companies and also through experts that oversee these, introduce skills to the nationals of the country. They introduce further employment to the nationals of the country, because I don't want to believe that you've gone to KFC and found only Indians working there or Americans. Surely there are Ugandans. Now, to simply focus on profit repatriation, which I think is on a very small scale, is a mistake, really. A small extent.
I think there's so much capital flight that happens with the mode through which these multinationals operate in Uganda or in any African country.
In that case, I
look at an example. What's the biggest petrol station in Uganda? Total. Total is a French company. All right. What is the biggest, for example, food outlet in
perhaps KFC?
KFC. It is American. All right. So you cannot simplify it as saying, you know what, after all, they're giving us jobs. The Ugandans they are employing, at what level are they being employed? They are the waitresses, all right? Are Ugandans being employed at a managerial level of KFC, for example? Or they are the waitresses sweeping here, serving this?
Probably underemployed.
Yeah. So we cannot simplify the argument to only say that, you know what, after all, they are employing us. But how much more is going back to their countries? How much capital flight is happening? There's so many Ugandans who pay KFC, who buy fuel from Total. How much money is going back? So anyway, but you have a right to your opinion. Mine is only to interrogate it.
But you see, the failure of Ugandans to be employed in managerial positions cannot, to a big extent, be attributed to recruitment agencies. Sometimes someone does not exactly have qualifications. So how do you employ
but we have a local content
diploma holder to be a manager of a particular institution? You see that? I think if we are to improve or to better our service delivery, we are supposed to have a better education and better skill sets. If we do not have those, even if we are given programs handed over by the government, they're bound to fail, quite frankly speaking, if you do not have experts overseeing these programs. Which means the argument or the conversation is a little broader than simply failing to employ Ugandans in crucial positions. We're supposed to examine why are they not being employed, not simply asserting that they are not being employed and that is it. We are being cheated. I submit.
All right. We are due for a short commercial break. Aminah, allow me to begin with you after this short commercial break. To the viewer out there, we are still discussing the implications of the World Bank Group decision to halt its funding to the Republic of Uganda. Don't move your muscle. See you after this.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We'll be back from that short commercial break. Well, let's just continue. Aminah, first of all, do you have a comment to make before I even put your question? Because you've heard from the two gentlemen and the lady regarding their opinions, their school of thoughts, you know, World Bank being portrayed as the alpha and omega. But let us interrogate more our response as a country. The president was very firm and said that with or without World Bank, we shall continue. Was this a honest statement? Was he trying to portray a brave face, a brave personality, yet in fact he knows that we cannot live without these guys? So just a comment about the president's response, but also in case you have any opinion regarding what they said.
No, thank you very much, Moses. Well, Laban was talking about, he was giving us the statistics and everything. You know, when you sign a contract, I'm glad you two are business people. When you sign a contract with your partner, there is an understanding that is brought about. You're bringing this, I'm bringing this, you're doing this, I'm doing this. When you brought in the aspect of technical support we get from the World Bank, when we signed that from today onwards, we are member states of the World Bank. Technical support is their mandate. They are supposed to give it to us. It's not like it's an extra privilege that we get. No. When we go into a memorandum of understanding with them, it's part of their mandate. Technical support, financial support, and so on and so on. And then when she was speaking about the burden going back to the URA, yes, I agree with her 100%. We have so many undeclared income in Uganda. So much of undeclared income in Uganda. For example, who of us here knows how much we get from gold? But we have Ugandans working in the mineral sector. But it is assumed to be about 23 trillion Ugandan shillings. That is only gold or the mineral sector. So when the president says, you know what, we can survive with or without the World Bank, it is true, because when you look, we go back to our, and I agree with Judith here when she says this is a call to Uganda. Actually, it is a patriotic call. Any patriotic Ugandan would be happy that actually now the country is going to be a little bit intentional on whatever we shall be doing. For example, why don't we need to cut off some of the budgets, as some here has mentioned, because we have so many classified budgets, we have so many state house budget, we have a lot of wastage going on.
The cost of administration.
Yes, the cost of administration is too much for a country like Uganda. Even if it calls for cutting off the number of the number of the members of parliament in the country, I would agree with that. Only that when I don't remember the person who was heading the commission, that's I've forgotten his name, that suggested that they should cut off salary for public servants. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, they are saying cutting off, but my worry is them starting with the teachers, policemen, and doctors who are already meagerly paid. Yeah. That was my worry. I was like, yes, if they are to cut off that salary, let them start with the top, then come down, and then maybe use that money for a better good. So yes, I agree with the president. We can really live with or without the World Bank. We appreciate actually the work of the World Bank. We really appreciate. They have constructed the roads. I've traveled almost all over Uganda, I know. And the question is, even these roads that they have constructed, some of them, when you look at them, the potholes, Kampala has been having a pothole exhibition for some months now. Even of some of the roads they have constructed, that means we might have to go back to get another road to again come back and rehabilitate the roads they have already constructed. So if the president is confident that we are going to survive with or without the World Bank, rather, I'm also confident in him. And as a patriot, of course, Laban is laughing, but
because he's confident, because for him, as I talk today, within, you remember we are in the first quarter of our budget. You'll be shocked that for him, the State House would have gotten 80% of the funding. Well, for him, he's not going to suffer. But you, the Muntuawans...
That is understandable. The Muntuawans has already been suffering with the World Bank loans, actually, if you did not know, for your information. The Muntuawans has already been suffering. It's not that like the World Bank gives us the money and it comes back to us. Not really, Laban. Let's be a little optimistic here. So the thing is, I'm a firm believer in the Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Just to cite out two goals, that is Goal 16 of the UN Agenda 2030, calls for peace, justice, and strong institutions. And then Goal 12 of Agenda 2063 of the African Union calls for still strong institutions. So if we have, or if we embark on building strong institutions, Laban here is skeptical because the institutions are not strong. That is our only challenge now. And yes, the World Bank decision was a wake-up call for us. Let's embark on building these institutions so that they are strong enough to sustain our Uganda for the next 30. I mean, we want to achieve Vision 2040. We want to achieve. Yes, it's a process, and China wasn't a global power in 1970. Here it is. They have endured through the process. What makes you think a Ugandan cannot endure
Because
through
of
the
governance
process?
problem we have in this
That
country.
is the
As
point
long
of
as
institutions
they-
I'm bringing
As
forward.
long as you still have the guy of the big hat,
Well,
and you think that the process will be in 1
that-
or 2 years,
that is
the process will only come with the changing of the Ugandan's government. governance.
Well, those are the institutions
Yes.
I'm talking about. We need to build
Governance.
strong institutions and governance.
To
is one
have
of the
leaders who
institutions.
care for this country. That is, it doesn't take just talking
But who
here,
are those leaders?
making here statements that will excite
But those,
young people.
those leaders come from among us. They come from the people.
But you know from the top, as long as you have something on the top, which is not working, what do you expect from down? Everything. If you have in your family, if you are a father who is the leader at home, disorganized, then even if you as a child.
Okay.
I think I disagree.
Okay.
Well, I'm
we are saying
saying
Aminah's time. Let's allow Aminah.
that all goes back to building strong institutions. If we have strong leadership institutions, if we have strong tax institutions, we are all good to go. And I believe it is going to take us time. I love China so much. Before 1970, China was in a different state. But now here is the country. China is able to go to shake, actually, world powers when China speaks. So what makes you think a Ugandan cannot endure through the process of making sure we are reshuffling our country and we are looking at this particular goal and we want to achieve it? That still goes back to the institutions.
Yeah.
Anyway, Moses, let's submit.
Yeah. Just one last question before I move to the rest is that who funds the World Bank, by the way?
Well, the World Bank is funded by its member states.
And I think the biggest funder is the USA.
Yeah, the biggest funder
Germany,
is the USA. The G7.
UK. Well, I think there's a question that we must interrogate much more deeper with regards to who funds the World Bank. But Laban, let's get back to Africa and look at this from a retrospective point of view. Is that you have a continent with so much wealth as Africa. We are in an era where we're discussing the African Continental Free Trade Area. All right? We have the African Development Bank. All right? That is hosted in Nigeria? I'm not sure. But you have the Africa Development Bank. All right? You have a project in Congo of the Igma Dam that if it was successfully completed, the energy that would be generated from that dam would supply almost more than half of the continent with electricity. That is the potential of Africa. If you look at our arable land, there's so much that we can produce if only we added some value to our products. We would be a global agricultural force to reckon with. Now, with all this potential, we can be self-sustaining. Why aren't we being able to actualize? I don't know. Is it conflict? Is it peace? Is it bad governance? Why can't Africa just realize its potential? Because it is there for everyone to see.
Yes, I do agree with you.
The phones that Apple makes, I'm seeing here iPhones, the phones that Apple makes is made from uranium that comes from Congo. All right? So I don't know. Like, convince me how Africa is not a world superpower.
Kidega, while Uganda was getting independence in 1962, it was almost at the same level with Singapore. But do you know one of the reasons as to why? Singapore's economic growth and development is big, even I think more than double that of Uganda's economy. We shall come here, we discuss issues related to capital development, human capital development. We discuss everything. We discuss the minerals in Africa. We discuss each and everything. But as long as we don't sort out the issue of governance in Africa, we shall continue to suffer. That is the main problem. Let me give you an example. Congo has one of the many resources in Africa, natural resources.
In the world, actually.
But because of bad governance and politics, bad politics in Congo, even African countries are themselves exploiting Congo. You look bad governance here in Africa, you find out that a certain president of a certain country goes ahead to hire military from Western countries or from other Africans to guard him, paying huge amount of money. What does it mean? Bad governance is the root cause. Whether we come here, we discuss human capital development, skills, what. I am very happy in Africa, there are countries which have progressed. Do you know the reason why they are progressing? It's because of their leadership and governance.
And it's because they are willing to take the baby steps.
Look at South Africa, the step they are taking. Kenya, because they are, of course, it still has its challenge. But look at it.
It's progressive. They are more progressive.
When you look at its GDP and you compare, remember when Uganda was getting independence, it was also almost the same year when Kenya was getting almost the same. But look at the GDP. Because of its politics, the governance it has. Whether we come here, you say, the statement Museveni made was a political statement, should not be right, that we can survive or not. And it is going to be politics that is going to populate. It is to excite Ugandans to think in their mind that, you know what, we are self-reliant.
Laban, I want to give you a minute
just
to help me unpack governance. I'll give you more time, but what is governance? Because you've emphasized the issue is governance. What is governance?
Having systems that will work. Democracy. Because you see, you are getting funding.
Because why I ask is that you look at China, because, and I'm glad that you've mentioned democracy. You look at China, would you consider China a democracy?
Yes, of course.
Is it a democracy?
It's a political...
The Communist Party?
No, what I'm saying, it's political...
Okay, largely they fall below the radar.
Yes, but they have
threshold
systems.
of a threshold of a democracy.
They have democracy because they are able, they can change.
They are a single.
No, but
they are a single party state.
No, but democracy doesn't mean only changing.
Okay.
People, do they have the liberty
to
make a decision?
Fair enough.
Yeah?
Fair enough.
Yes.
So the point is that governance is about strong institutions, not about what form of governance you take, right? Because there are monarchies that are thriving. They don't go for elections, they don't blah, 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 but they're thriving.
But they also look at the systems they have.
So no, I'm trying to qualify your argument.
And also
for the benefit
depends on the culture and the social structure of that entire...
I am trying to qualify your submission for the benefit of the viewer. Is that governance is a question of institutions.
Yes.
Not about what kind of governance. Whether you are a democracy, whether you are a... I don't know, monarchy, it doesn't matter. For as long as there are strong institutions that are pro-people. As simple as that.
Even democracy plays a big role in that. Even democracy.
Okay.
But also, I wanted
But, okay, democracy, okay, governance put aside. How does governance stop us from trading with one another? Okay, we are having poor governance in our countries. But we are saying that, okay, now we have the African Continental Free Trade Area. Can we have non-tariff?
But do you agree that sometimes...
Can we have free movement of labor from one country to another? Can we trade freely with limited...
through the East African Federation.
The common protocol?
Yes, the common, when you look at the tariffs that there is, that on paper, when you look at it, talk free movement of goods and services, having a common currencies, that's what the main objective of the East African Federation. Then you also go on to digest the COMESA. Go to ECOWAS, look at it. But in reality, here, we are talking about, we come here, President Museveni comes on news and take, I do agree that the only way to go is having the effectiveness within the East African Federation. But look at what is happening to the Uganda's product going to Kenya.
Okay. Laban, I want to bring in Judith. Judith, what would it take for Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, etc., to finance our own development? What would it take? Because we have the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. We have the EAC Common Market Protocol. All right? We have all these very good documents that should be able to create a platform for us to thrive. I don't know. Why is the hindrance?
Finance our development.
Yeah.
One of the issues is because very many people are evading tax. They do not want to pay tax. Very many people are avoiding tax. They do not want to pay tax. So if you do not want to pay tax as a Ugandans, I think you saw very many people standing up when every year, when we're having tax bills in Parliament, the proposed tax bills, there's a lot of confusion because people do not want to pay tax. The government, the ministry is proposing maybe we can have tax from let's say from the minerals, people that are exporting minerals, and they do not want to pay tax. They just do not want. So the problem is us really as people. I don't know. You generalize it as Africans. We do not want to contribute our fair share of tax. So if
Really?
and it's because
like the biggest hindrance.
And because we do, I think one of the problems is because we are not also educated. We not educated in a way of the tax arrangement, the tax systems. We do not know why we should pay tax.
But Judith, first hold up. We are a very poor country. So the people you're asking to pay taxes from where?
From what?
my mom is a farmer. She grows maize. Last evening she called me and told me that, Moses, I have harvested my maize, but the market price of maize right now is at 800 per kilogram. I cannot sell at that price. I have to wait for it maybe in September when the price goes to 1,000. Maybe then students are going back to school and etc. Those are the actual realities on ground. All right? So how can someone who cannot make money pay taxes?
Do you know, I do not know if I've interacted with a lot, some people that stay, I think, in the US and all. They pay their taxes without question. Do you know why? Because they are able to access those without question. They depend on loans. One can have a car on a loan. They are having rentals. They are staying in a house on a loan for years and years because they do not earn enough to sustain them, but also pay taxes. But they do not complain about paying taxes. They pay their taxes, and they will find them whoever is earning.
But you see,
Kidega,
Judith,
let me just complain.
Tax is in fact a governance issue. That for people to pay their taxes, they must have the confidence that my taxes are going to be used well.
And I do not disagree. And I do not disagree.
So if there is a sense of now my taxes, it will be used to construct big mansions.
Kidega, I have mentioned.
Rightly so.
Kidega.
Rightly so.
Kidega, I have
Rightly so.
mentioned.
I want to avoid the taxes. I want to be tax compliant.
I have mentioned when I was talking about DRM.
If I'm seeing ministers being driven with like, I don't know, lead cars and what, I cannot pay my taxes. To do what?
And you
to
are right.
Finance such?
You are right. My point is, I have mentioned before on this very show, like seconds ago, that as we collect taxes, as we pay, you tell Kidega to pay taxes, you should account. You should account for their money. I mentioned that.
Yes, you did.
Yes, and I'm saying the government cannot survive when we are not paying taxes. They cannot finance even the little they are financing.
True.
These taxpayers need fuel to pay taxes, need support.
True.
These SMEs need support to pay taxes. They need to make your roads to enable you trade, move from wherever, so that they are just simplifying your ways so they can come and tax you. They cannot survive unless you're saying we should now depend on loans to finance our development. But these loans are being cut right now. So the only way the only sustainable way, it's not the only way, but the only sustainable way for government to finance this development, to finance our budget, is to have more taxpayers on board. So you cannot develop when we're having on loans. When we're
how
surviving on
many
loans.
Ugandans pay taxes today?
From the recent
Study.
you see every other day the tax book is they're adding many taxpayers on board every other day, every other minute.
But roughly.
So I saw last week, as of last week, I think the URA administrator told us 3.6 taxpayers
in Uganda out of 45 million.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
And that only means that there are very many people that there's no way the government is going to finance us. So for us to support it, for us to support these roads, it's only a governance issue that they're going to put these resources in the right sectors. That is another discussion, which can be maybe developed when we empower our citizens to demand accountability for their money. So it's also URA having to sensitize citizens, taxpayers, to see, for this building, as much as you're paying this tax, it will do this, but either at the later stage, also empower citizens to demand accountability for their money. So when they demand, maybe the government will later on start to put the finances in the right sectors.
No, first of all, Loki,
yeah.
How can we, I don't know, the same question, financing our own development, how is it possible?
Well, currently, other than debts, our biggest source of money is, of course, taxes. But who are the taxpayers? You see, most times when we speak of taxes, we just speak of amounts of money. We don't actually put faces onto these taxes. You would find that there is someone working tooth to toe to just make a 5,000 a day, and they are paying money. So for them to see that their money is being misappropriated, clearly it is a show of undermining or something of the sort. There is no way someone would have the moral authority to continue paying taxes when the money they are paying is being misused. You see, take a simple example of the kinds of useless expenditures I mentioned earlier. And sometimes, whereas they may not be useless, they are not supposed to be prioritized. A simple example I can give is maybe along Namunguna roundabout, there is a very dilapidated road just next to the place, and then there is a sewage system that is being constructed. Now, why do you have to beautify a drainage channel which is already working, and there is a road which has the potential to increase taxes that are going to be paid because it improves commercial services? You're leaving that and improving something which is virtually not good, increase economic activity in the country. You see, and then I would of course have to speak about the most crucial point in the country: corruption. How many scandals has Uganda had in this year alone? They used 9.6 billion, or was it billion shillings, to train youth to drink coffee.
To drink coffee.
A particular ministry used 400 million to transfer files from Entebbe to Kampala.
500 million for electricity.
You see, you'd find most of these things, iron sheets, these are things that continue to break down systems in the country. And I honestly admire the kind of faith my sister here has in things like the SDGs. But again, I think these SDGs are just a list of unrealistic things that the UN has compiled, because you see, the SDGs were a goal that is supposed to be achieved by 2030.
Yeah.
That is 7 years from today to then. Can we delete poverty from Uganda within these 7 years? That is literally impossible. Can we remove corruption? That is impossible. We are very, very unintentional when it comes to corruption. How many institutions do we have that are meant to fight corruption? There is the IGG's office. there is the park in Parliament, there is COSASE, there is the anti-corruption unit of State House, there is the anti-corruption department of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And when the president was asked, he said that he plans to institute another anti-corruption unit at the State House. Are these all necessary expenditures? You see, I want to provide also a slight legal way we can go about the issue of corruption. You see, you are a student of law, I believe, yes? And you would know that there is such a thing as strict liability offenses. These are offenses for which you don't have to prove someone's intention. I mean, why does someone need to have an intention? Or why should someone have to explain why they stole money? If we made corruption a strict liability offense, don't you think it would work a great deal in deterring the same? Don't you think it would work a great deal in ensuring that it is a preventive measure in instances of corruption?
Do you want to mean there are no laws that deter?
There are laws against corruption, but these are laws for which you're supposed to first prove that someone had the intention, which is why someone can just say, man, I just found iron sheets in my compound. I don't know what happened. Then someone says, I refunded the iron sheets. And you see, if you're claiming that someone stole something which they have refunded, there is no case that you have to prove. There is no case. However, if we had strict liability on issues of corruption, it would work a great deal to curb the strongest vice of our generation and country at large.
I would like to chip in.
Yeah, sure.
I do agree with when he says about corruption. But I also I want to not to buy this economic theory of thought that I want to disagree with it, that when you look at it, the only way to Uganda will survive, would be looking at only revenue. But comrades, I want to tell you that as long as Uganda does not look at reviewing its monetary and fiscal policies, whether we collect how much taxes, we shall be wasting time.
But revenue
today.
Fiscal policy.
No, I'm saying
the policy.
No, I'm looking at fiscal policy in terms of recurrent expenditure, reviewing.
But you see earlier the
Are we together?
Was
reviewing our recurrent expenditure. Mostly. Let me give you an example. Parliament of the Republic of Uganda today has more than 500 MPs.
557.
557 MPs. Everyone, each MP earns more than 25 million every month.
Yes. Plus allowances.
In Aminah's government, where I agree with him, he had, even the second Robert had less than, I think, even 30. Today we have each district having RDCs.
Deputy RDC.
The role and RCCs, the role what they are doing is to engage whenever there is a by-election, whenever there is an election, is just to aid in rigging of elections. I have been in those elections, I've seen that is their role. In Uganda, we have more than 80 ministers, both cabinet and ministers of state. Everyone is entitled to a read car, and they procure for him or her a car of worth more than 200 million Ugandan shillings. More than 80. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa, has more than 80 presidential advisors. All of them are entitled to a car and a monthly salary.
That's not true. I don't have cars. But
I'm telling you, some of them have cars. I'm telling you, this is the information it should be. People have cars. Presidential advisors. Are we together? Eh? All of them have. Here in Uganda, we have different government agencies that are just there receiving money, but there is no even accountability. that needs to emerge. More than 50 of them, they are doing the same. Somebody director of industrial training, somebody what? They are doing, you have somebody the State House anti-corruption what? All of them are entitled. Somebody the State House promotion strategy thing. All of them are doing almost the same work, but they are getting funding from government. We have to look at our expenditure. Can't we reduce the presidential advisors from 80 to 20?
24.
You know? What are they advising? Do they even really advise? Oh, just everyone who retires, who they meet in the election is made a presidential advisor just to receive a handout. You know? Are we together? This is something that as we young people, as we come here, because for us we have the time to come here, we have a great opportunity that we are SSX, we have to get to discuss that whether we equip URA with the necessary infrastructure to collect taxes. But as long as we don't look at our discipline in terms of expenditure, to reduce the expenditure. I am telling you, State House, its budget is more than 20 districts. State House, the home of someone.
It's actually not one State House there too.
Are you getting? It's budget. And I'm telling you, as we talk today, for them, as you talk, the effects, the impact of the World Bank, some people will not be affected. Those are the people you are seeing in lead cars. They will not be affected because their budget, they will get their budget within the second quarter of the financial year. But I'm telling you, some districts will reach the fourth quarter and they have never received the money. And those are why we expect social services for the people. We should even look at the impact the World Bank will have. The review of the portfolio of the World Bank. When you look, for example, our resource envelope for the financial year 2022, 2023, it was 49 point something trillion. But we have to interest ourselves. How much was used? You see, in Uganda, we budget for 52, but in reality, that is not the money that we get. 38 point something trillion, the one which was used for that current year. Even when they had budgeted for 49 point. For this current year, financial year, I know we budgeted for 52.7 trillion, but I'm very sure the money which will be used up as for the next financial year, it will not reach even 45. Does the money for World Bank come? Yes, the money comes. Even we have projects which are still running, projects of 2010, 2013 that are still running up to this time.
Okay, actually, that is where I want to challenge us in just 2 seconds each is, let's mention these World Bank projects that are running in Uganda. Laban just mentioned one, Judith one, then I will, as she ends, I will post to her question. That's just one project, be it health or whatever it is that you know of.
What?
One World Bank project that is running in Uganda currently.
Of course, we have the construction of roads.
Mention the specific program.
There is a program.
You had mentioned something. Is it Invest? What? Was it you?
That is the program. It is a program called INVET.
INVET.
It is a World Bank investment, transformation and employment. Of course, the World Bank had decided this coming year.
That's enough. Judith.
I don't know what a specific project, but I know it is funding the Ministry of Gender. I am forgetting the project.
Even
but
the standard delegate from Toronto, this side has been funded.
Loki?
I want to believe PEPFAR is also one of them. It is a project that has
Ban for AIDS
in conjunction, yes, where they give medical reliefs for AIDS. That is the drugs PEP. Then it's something of that sort.
Okay, Aminah.
Currently, I don't know any. I only know that Tilinyi Road, and it was rehabilitated.
Okay, fair enough. But I'd pose the question to all of us: is that how can we finance our own development? As we wrap up the show, is that, you know, a possible future for Africa? Can we reimagine a possible future whereby we don't need to run to World Bank, IMF to give us money all the time, where we are self-sustaining? Can we be more frugal? Can we cut? I don't know what we need to do, but...
Yeah, when Laban said the president made his statement and it was a political statement, I did not believe that statement because it was a political statement. I believed in it as a Pan-Africanist, as someone who wants Uganda first compared to whatever. I'm not a supporter of Museveni anyway, just for you to be sure. So the thing is, we can do this as a country. These countries that we look at, America also has its own problems. It has debts, actually. One of the most indebted countries in the world is America. You can't believe, but it is true. It has its issues, but America just started being America as we know it in 1777, I think. That's when they got their independence. Well, if we agree that we can all take these baby steps, I told you China wasn't a global power before 1970. But they agreed that, okay, we are going to take these baby steps. But even before we take the baby steps, when you say, Judith here said, with revenue, correcting taxes, we are going to collect taxes until time memorial, until when Jesus comes back and Muhammad. But the thing is, if we do not have strong institutions, if Ugandans do not trust the current institutions, nothing is going to happen. The institutions include the head institution, that is the government, and all its sectors. You know, I do not want to collect my money and then if I know it, someone is building a mansion, someone is cruising in a V8, which my grandfather didn't even have. If I know it, someone is driving some weird car that I have never even seen in my family. So the thing is, if I am to pay my tax, I want to know how is my tax going to be used? And was it really used in case they mentioned that they were going to use it? So we are supposed to cut the costs. That is true. We have so many uncalled for costs that we spend on much money as a country. But then, as you call upon, as URA, as any other entity calls upon Ugandans to start paying the taxes, can they first work on themselves? Because I don't want to pay my tax, and then if I know it, that I'll spend 500 million on electricity, which is way more than roofings. I don't want to know. I just want to know, is my money put to better use? I don't want to know someone is buying so many cows in Rachitula. I don't want to know that. All I want to know is my money put to better use? If we can achieve that, if we can achieve strong institutions, then I believe we shall be going into a better direction. When Laban insists on governance, yes, even if we have good governance and URA still has some people out there who don't believe in the governance, we are not going anywhere. So we need to have strong institutions that have streamlined objectives so that we can achieve autonomy as a country, as an African country.
Wow, fantastic. Colleagues, we need to be out of here. I'll give us each 30 seconds strictly to just give us your parting shots. Just look to the camera and speak to the viewer in your last words. I'll begin with you, Judith, then Laban, as I come this side.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, viewers, for keeping with us. Just to end, we cannot overemphasize the point of cutting expenditure as a country. I will not even talk about a lot, but also the need to tap into other sources of revenue. It is not debatable that taxes is the only sustainable way of financing our development. We cannot depend on loans. Now we are debating today the suspension of World Bank loans. So we cannot sustain on that. So the only sustainable way is having other, tapping into revenue. And that I mentioned in the show, tapping into the illicit financial flows, the commercial farmers, and very many, entertainment, very many. But also, as Ugandans, I think I've not mentioned the issue of tapping into promoting the FDIs, the foreign direct investments, so as to generate more revenue, but also tap into the technology. When they come here, they have lots of technology they offer, so maybe we can also tap into that. But that also comes with reducing the uncalled for tax exemptions that are right now ongoing with government. They offer very many tax exemptions to these foreign investors that is not accounted for. Then we do not get to monitor what these exemptions, tax exemptions do. So we need to also cut in that. But lastly, as the Bible says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Thank you.
Yes, Laban, your last words.
My last words is to encourage with the panelists here and the young people out there watching us that we should keep the discussion going on of the World Bankers review of its portfolio. And we also continue to ask ourselves questions about how the outstanding relationship and productive relationship between the World Bank and Uganda will impact the social services of the young people and the majority of this country. There is one saying which says that if we leave the politics with the elites, if we leave the politics in the hands of those dash, we shall suffer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Loki, your last words.
Well, I want to get into my last words in just a minute, but I think we as a country should be more deliberate, and we should understand also aspects of progressive and regressive taxes, then constant taxation, of course. That will definitely increase our resource mobilization, and of course, most notably, the point of corruption. It should be handled. Other than that, I would want to thank, of course, yes, the moderator, Center for Constitutional Governance, and then Civic Space for this unconditional platform where ideas such as these are shared. It's I think the country owes you one.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Aminah.
Thank you, Moses, for this very wonderful platform. My last words would be to every Ugandan in particular. They should be looking at Uganda as a country, not as an individual, because the moment we get into the individualistic thinking, that's where everything goes wrong, where you think it's for God and my family, not for God and my country. That's where everything goes wrong. Let's put Uganda first. And I would love to see that when the proposal to cut public servants' salary is brought in, I would love to see that our MPs take the lead with a yes. We don't want to say no's, because, we are all Ugandans and we are in this together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Comrade Laban Kato, my good friend Judith Muvara, my brother Sam Loki, and of course, Aminah Nassali.
Just one, we did not attempt to talk about the implementation of this law that is getting into this, that is getting us to here. We have seen
the anti-homosexuality bill.
Yeah, so we did not get the time to analyze the implication, but also the implementation of the same.
Yeah.
So my hope is that as we are losing this money, I hope we do not see gayism in the movies, in the books. I hope it's actually implemented.
Yeah.
If we lose the same.
Yeah. Otherwise, we shall be losing at both ends.
Yeah.
Losing the money and also having
yeah.
gays thriving.
They are still around.
No. Actually, I think I posed the question earlier on to her, which was, you like there are other countries with stronger LGBTQ laws. But then I think, yes, I agree with you. We didn't go deeper. But I think the core aspect of the debate was the implication of
the decision.
Yeah. But do we see us reviewing our law?
No, I want to tell you, Kidega, the politics
debate
is going to be played, and at the end of the day, I am very sure President Museveni is going to talk have a personal talk, political talk with the World Bank. And I know at the end of the day, World Bank will hold its decision. And because I'm telling you, if we don't have that support, Uganda will shut.
But World Bank has given you a condition that your law is
you know the law is in the courts of law.
The law does not necessarily criminalize anyone simply because they are homosexual. That is what he was saying. He said the law, however, criminalizes someone who attempts to recruit. You find someone, you know they are not gay, you're recruiting them. You find a child, you're recruiting them. And then the same, Mao also said the same thing. He said that the law is grossly misunderstood by the West. Now you see, we as the government have started defending.
My brother, those are political statements. I'm telling you, when people go backward, they mean different things.
Do you see this law being reversed in any way?
Yeah, it is possible.
It is in courts of law.
It will be amended.
It can be amended.
Some of the lecturers challenge
out of political pressure or out of genuine
political pressure.
Well, unfortunately, we cannot delve so deep into the nitty-gritties of that particular bill. But it's always a pleasure to you, our viewers, having you every single Wednesday afternoon. Until next week, same time, same place, have yourself a lovely afternoon.